in Iowa City is preparing to launch a groundbreaking course. The name of the course is an Introduction to Islamic Psychology. The course will investigate the connection between psychology and religion. It also examines a perception that Muslims generally have about the subject of psychology and other related subjects. Another aim in the course is to overcome many stereotypes that Muslims and non-Muslims have about the subject of religion and psychology. Now, Professor Carrie York Al-Kadam, she describes the uniqueness of the course, saying, quote, that it's not even just a new course at the University of Iowa. It's a new course. Nobody is teaching this, end quote. Explaining her views on the subject, the professor says that in Islamic traditions, there are what are called diseases of the heart, which are actually spiritual diseases. Meanwhile, the professor and chair of the Religious Studies Department at the university, Diana Fritz Cates, she said, quote, that in order to understand any culture and understand its history, understand what's important to it, understand its cultural products, you have to understand something about religion. And Professor Cates also said that Islam has a lot to say about the nature of the human being, about psychopathology, and about healing both mentally and physically. The university plans to offer this course, the Islamic psychology, beginning this fall, online, with the academic value of 3 credits. The Professor York Al-Kadam, she hopes actually to one day open an institute, an Islamic Psychology Institute, and offer certification in Islamic psychology. Okay, inshallah, we're going to have, inshallah, we're trying to get one of the professors from the University of Iowa to join us by telephone. The brothers are working on getting connected with them. We hope they're successful. In the meantime, we move on to our next item. Takes us to one of the bodies or organs in the United Nations system, UNESCO. World Heritage Committee of UNESCO conducted its 41st session on yesterday, concluded it on yesterday in the Polish city of Krakow. Before we continue with UNESCO, we go back to the previous story that's in Iowa, at the University of Iowa. Inshallah, we're going to be joined by Professor Carrie York Al-Kadam. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Huda tonight.
Alaikum salam, thank you.
We're very honored, privileged to have you join us because you played an instrumental role in developing this. Please tell us, Professor, about the genesis of this project and the background leading up to its development and it being offered for this fall.
Yeah, so the development of this course has actually been quite a number of years in the making. Mm-hmm. My background, in psychology, my doctoral degree is in psychology, and I always had a big interest in issues of religion and spirituality within that context. Mm-hmm. And during my doctoral years, I studied, transpersonal psychology, Buddhist psychology, some Hindu psychology, and one of the things that struck me is that, you have these sort of established programs and indeed even schools that focus on Christian psychology or transpersonal psychology or Buddhist psychology, but there was nothing in Islamic psychology. And so, going back many years, this was always my sort of initial interest in the development of this discipline, because certainly I knew that Islam has its own psychological system that is inherent in the tradition, but nobody is really actively studying that today, and certainly there are no programs or schools that focus on that. So that has always been my intention for quite a number of years. But, sometimes you have big dreams, but you have small steps that you have to take in order to reach those bigger goals. and this course is very much a step along the path in terms of that bigger vision.
Now, typically when university departments prepare a new course, there is a customary set of challenges and perhaps even obstacles. What about in your case? Did you meet any extraordinary obstacles and challenges?
I wouldn't say that there's been any sort of extraordinary challenges. I mean, certainly there's always the challenge of, developing the course like there is with any course.
Right.
I would say probably one of the biggest challenges, though, is that it's a new, or should we say it's an emerging discipline. It's an emerging topic. Now, of course, if we look at that historically, we know that that's not the case. If we go back to sort of the golden age of Islam, we have this in Islamic history, but when we're talking about it from a contemporary perspective, certainly it's something that's emerging. So it's been a challenge for me to sort of bring together material that sort of has been published, material that is out there that I can use for such a course. Because, I mean, when I teach my general introduction to psychology class, I mean, there are, so many people and ample amount of material. This is kind of like a staple class in psychology. But so it has that added challenge when you're teaching a class that does, that it's a challenge to bring together materials that you can cover in the class. So I would say that was probably the biggest challenge. But there's also been an enormous amount of buzz and excitement around the class, and a lot of support from the different departments in the university who are offering this course, as well as the university in general. And the general community, I would say.
You said in the article, the interview that you did, that there is no one that is teaching this course. You just talked about how there's no precedent. What you described, is that pretty much across the country, that no one's moving in this direction?
So, as far as I know, in the United States, there are not any formalized courses in higher education, in university systems that are offering this course. I am aware that there is a short sort of 1-week course on Islamic psychology at Cambridge Muslim College in the UK, and that's taught by Professor Rashid Skinner. And he is a colleague of mine, and sort of we run in similar circles. And so, I'm aware of that small program, and there are a lot of people that are working in the area of what we call Muslim mental health. But and so within that context of Muslim mental health, people have written topics that could be considered part of Islamic psychology, whether it was sort of translating the work of the early scholars like al-Balkhi or al-Ghazali, some of their work, or if they're talking about, the nature of the self, like concepts like the nafs and the qalb and the ruh, and, there has been some piecemeal publications of this. But Muslim mental health is not entirely synonymous with Islamic psychology. So there are people who are doing bits and pieces of work in terms of what we would call Islamic psychology, but there's nothing that's like a cohesive discipline. And so that's what I am trying to do, is to establish this discipline and bring some cohesion to it so that we can really build it up into something that certainly I think that it could be, the potential that it has to become, which is an actual scientific discipline. So we're not there yet.
Professor, which department is it housed in? Is it the religious department or the psychology department?
So right now, the course, which is called Introduction to Islamic Psychology, it is it has 4 different university cross listings.
Okay.
So it's religious studies, international studies, Middle East and Islamic studies, and global health studies.
Okay.
Those are the 4 different listings. And certainly we hope, my background is in psychology. I'm a psychologist. I usually work in psychology departments. And so certainly we hope to be able to add psychology to that in the future. But right now it has those 4 different cross listings.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that covers it. One last question about the credits. You said it's offered in cross disciplines, 4 different disciplines. Can they actually, students, take this course online and apply it to their required academic curriculum?
Well, that would depend on the requirements of whatever university they are in. So yes, this is an online course, and it's being offered for 3 credits. So students that are at the University of Iowa, they can sign up and take it, and you know, they'll get credit for it. If students that are outside of the university, they are also welcome to sign up and take the course. And my understanding is that normally, under normal circumstances, that credit should be transferable to their universities. But you know, every university has, you know, some slightly different requirements, so they would certainly have to check about that. But it is offered for 3 credits, and they should be able to claim that.
Would you like to give a website?
They can visit the Religious Studies Department website at the University of Iowa. So if they go to University of Iowa, or like iowa.edu, and they can look for the Religious Studies Department, and they can find, and even they can look for the International Studies Department, and they can see all of the information listed there.
Great. Professor, thank you very much for joining us. We wish you every success. Very excited, actually, about your work, and may Allah accept your efforts. Assalamu alaikum.